We did a podcast not too long ago, and in that podcast episode, you predicted a ban upcoming in the aesthetics industry, and you got some backlash from that because you
Yeah.
was kind of told that you was scaremongering. However, yesterday there was a big announcement that's happened, and this is affecting Scotland and potentially the UK as well. So, can you tell me what's happening in the aesthetics industry right now, and what is potentially happening to those in England, Wales, Ireland, Scotland?
Yeah. So everything that I said in our last podcast, there's a major ban coming. And if you look at what's proposed, and this is going to be by September, it's likely that if they push it through, the treatments that you perform, that you do day in and day out, you're going to be stopped. There's going to be a ban on them because they're going to fall into group three, which means medics only.
Right, okay. So let's go back through these groups, Maxine,
Yeah.
and then we'll go into a little bit about what's been announced in Scotland and how that could affect us. So there's three groups, isn't there? So can you tell me what group one, two, and three is?
Yeah. So group three is a restriction. So it's just going to be medics only. Group two is oversight. So things like dermal fillers, Botox, you can do them, but under clinical supervision. And I refer to Scotland. So this is like the test pilot. Group one would be, let's say, in a council, environmental health regulated premises, things like peels, microneedling, lower grade treatments, you're not going to require clinical supervision. And this is where it gets really scary because if this proposal goes through, you're going to be banned from doing things like cheek jaw chin, fat dissolve. This is what's proposed in group three, and I can go through them.
That would be amazing. So this announcement happened yesterday. Tell us more about this announcement and how it's going to affect those in Scotland for now.
Okay, so the biggest thing for Scotland is that if it goes this way, that you're going to have to perform it in a HIS registered clinic, similar to CQC. It means that the premises where you do it will be his, and it means that you have to have clinical supervision, a nurse on site who would oversee group two category treatments. So that's someone like myself, let's say, you've done treatments for 10 years, you've got someone overseeing that you're doing a treatment, and that is bad. It's
Yeah.
so bad.
So basically, what they're saying is, okay, non-medics are not banned from doing treatments, but you have to have somebody overseeing you, watching you actually perform that treatment for your client,
Yeah, because
which is
as I've said, it's not to restrict non-medics, it's to
mm,
make it difficult. This is difficulty.
mm,
How can you employ someone, and we'll get to that later on, how can you employ somebody on site to oversee the treatments that you've performed for over a decade?
mm,
How is that possible? This is where we've got a window frame. We've got till September to object with enough
right.
people here, Scotland, Belfast, Wales. There's enough people and customers who choose to use non-medics to have a voice and, stand up to it.
Well, what we'll do is we'll really get to that because I
Yeah.
think what we want to, I suppose our intention for this podcast episode for everybody that's listening to it is to give you clarity and to also tell you what it is that you need to do because not taking action is potentially going to result in these things going through, getting passed, and then them being kind of copied and mirrored in England. And
Yes.
for a practitioner, if one, they don't have any contacts who are medics, how are they going to be able to perform a simple dermal filler treatment like a lip filler? I mean, say simple, but like a lip filler treatment or a Botox treatment? Well, they're not because they don't have the clinical oversight. So there's a lot of things where potentially this could affect businesses, isn't there?
Yeah, massively. And I've said it all along. I've got to be brutally honest. The whole review is corrupt.
Yeah.
It's been led by organisations who have a strong influence on Scotland. And there's groups out there who campaign. You've got fact finders, faces are massive on the industry, especially supporting non-medics in the aesthetic industry. Being someone who's been involved since the very beginning, it was very clear being in meetings with people like Professor Signs, MHRA, the list goes on and on. We were there for the numbers.
Right.
My concern has always been we're going to get banned. There's certain treatments that are going to be restricted. And for people who've carried out these treatments, who've got successful businesses who pay tax, you know, how are they going to be affected? Their businesses are going to close. They're going to end up in debt. mental health, potentially suicide. And I'm not
No, no,
playing
I
it up
get that.
here,
Yeah, yeah.
but people are generally concerned. The amount of messages of people saying, I'm so upset, like, and that brings me to Scotland consultation. There were 71 medics that were invited to contribute. And I'll be honest, I didn't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I kept asking questions because I knew we were there for the numbers. There's
Mm.
a hierarchy of people that have got a strong influence. And at the end of it, they said, has anyone else got anything to say? And I said, yeah, we're here for the numbers. I said, I honestly don't believe whatever we say will be taken on board. And I was right. And I said that, I just don't feel that we're being listened to. Non-medics are being portrayed as everything that I expose. The media is a massive media campaign which is driven by organisations. I'm not going to say who, but it's driven that cowboys are non-medics,
No, it's not
not
true. Yeah.
not successful people.
Mm.
Businesses that turn over millions, that employ staff. Why should they be restricted from doing treatments that they do day in, day out? I can't get my head around it.
Yeah.
It's monopolisation. It's wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, when you've got so many people who have a negative opinion about the non-medics leading these type of campaigns, there is only one outcome, isn't there? Because they're
Yeah.
manipulating it to make it look like that. But you're so right.
Botox in cars. Look, Botox in cars. There was one yesterday. Botox in bedrooms and like the BBL and the butt lifts and everything that's gone wrong. Even a tragedy in the industry, someone losing their life. This is the things that people who are making these decisions are looking at, that is a non-medic that has done training. And that brings me to training. If you look again, his registration, they will work with people who hold a qualification. There's going to be a minimum standard of training.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not scaremongering. I've said it all along that you're going to have a qualification for everything you do. That's not scaremongering, that's facts.
And will it need to be a specific recognized qualification? So not like is it going to need to be an accredited? What kind of accreditation? What do you think people
Ofqual.
should prepare for? Ofqual.
Well, why do you think VTC have brought out a qualification? ProQual, Focus Awards, everybody's doing it. I don't know much about certain awarding bodies, but I do know a lot about VTCT. I know an awful lot about Qualify because I deliver it myself. But I do know within the qualifications, they never brought in certain treatments. And in the group 3 that I have here, obviously we'll go through them. Some treatments in there I never thought would be even put
Really?
towards 3 based on risk assessment. And again, it's not, people will now be saying, this is wrong. We've got to do something. Where were you?
Yeah.
Where were you when we're saying contribute? Scotland had 2,000 inputs. The UK had over 9,000, predominantly medic led. And when I say medic, we've got a lot of medics that support
Of
non-medics,
course.
and
Yeah.
it's going to be massively capitalised. Prices are going to increase. Customers who receive treatments, you'll not be paying a couple of £100 for Botox. It's going to go right up, and it's going to restrict people. Not in a way where you're banning people. It's going to make it very difficult. A lot of businesses will, do what you do in business. When difficulty you face, you find a solution, you work around it. People will cash in on things, maybe even create rooms, where it's, let's say HIS registered and they rent out rooms and there's clinical supervision. There'll be something like that.
Mm. Do you think for those who are listening to this that are thinking, oh my God, like, is it better for me to just quit? What do you think they need to do?
Don't quit. It's you can't quit at anything. I've been in this industry now for coming up to 17 years, and I always knew this day would come, and
Mm.
I've always said it would come. But you have to find a way around things, and that's adapting your business. And we've got plenty of time. Scotland is going to be implemented by May of 2026, and that's not long.
Not far. No.
No, but we've got until September to come as a collective, do it now or
Or yeah, because the fear is obviously whatever actually does end up going through. So let's just talk about these groups and what has been
yes.
agreed so far, because it still sounds like we've got something that people can do until September. So have are these changes that they've come out with, these groups, are these proposed or are these decided?
Proposed, but as I say, I think it's written
It's done.
because it's being led by organisations that do not want non-medics to do treatments. That has always been apparent since day one, since the first meeting, Health Education England, non-medics were invited for the numbers, but you are definitely not included in this industry.
Okay.
That's my view.
So let's go into detail about these groups then, shall we? So people get a really good understanding of what's imposed in Scotland. And then let's also talk about diversifying and what those in Scotland can do to continue their businesses, and what kind of advice we would give them as well. So let's go through the groups first.
Okay. So group one. So microneedling, LED, chemical peels in a licensed salon. So that's like your council. So if you do any of those treatments, a level 4 or level 5 qualification.
Right, okay. So so it's not just going to be a case of, oh, I did a couple of day course somewhere. It's going to have to be an industry recognized Ofqual or whatever, level 4, level 5 qualification, MVQ, whatever it is. They're going to have to hold that in order for them to continue to do the treatments. And then their local councils are probably going to put some sort of similar to like a premises license or that kind of thing in place so that they are basically responsible for the cleanliness and that kind of thing in the environment. So that's level 1.
Yes. And for those who say, how do we know what qualification it's going to be? Oh, it's Ofqual. But it's a qualification. It's not CPD. So for girls out there who've got CPD businesses, you're going to need to future-proof.
Okay.
It's not going to be acceptable in the future.
Where can they do that?
Well, you could look at becoming a centre, Focus, Qualify, VTCT, ProQual. They're all different. They all do the same principles are the same, but they're Ofqual qualifications. And if we think about it logically, and people say, but we don't know it's this qualification. Come on, please.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, it's going to be something that's industry recognized. It's like in colleges, you have to have your MVQ 2 and 3, what you do in beauty.
Yeah, why have they put time into developing the quals, really? As an awarding body, why have they done it? And who else is going to do it? Is the government going to create it? Are they going to do a qualification? No, they're not. So that's group 1.
Just quickly, do Cosmetic Couture offer these qualifications as well, Maxine? Because somebody might be listening to this and think, where do I train? Who do I inquire with? I want to get the ball rolling. And that's not us plugging. This is me saying, like, these people probably do need some direction on, okay, where do I buy it?
Well, yeah, we've been offering it for a while. I'm not. The qualifications are not easy to deliver. And honest now, there are tens of thousands of people that want to get on these qualifications because 9%, I would say, the industry have been on and more past them. Everybody's sat back and waited. While you've sat back and waited, prices have increased. The numbers, the places, centres closed down. They're struggling to run these qualifications because it's a new qualification. So there's difficulties already within the industry, even delivering these qualifications.
That's going to cause problems. Okay. So that's group 1. So let's go to group 2.
Yeah, group 2. So, and I'll quote this, if you work under direct on an on-site medical support supervision in a HIS registered clinic. So that means the premises has to be HIS registered. Yep. Somebody on site, not looking over, like you're doing that wrong. Yeah. It's not that. And that, again, is quite patronising.
Yeah.
10 years of doing a treatment and someone who's newly qualified with a PIN number. But I think the clinical supervision is when it goes wrong. So if you've got a VO, we're going to get high lays on site. We might need some prescription medicine prescribing. I don't think it needs to be done on site. And this is going to fall under the category of Botox and fillers. So you've got to work directly under someone in Scotland.
And does that mean, just to clarify, does that mean that someone needs to be watching you or just present in the
premises? Yeah, so the premises, it's like delegation. It's like a doctor being on site, and if something goes wrong,
you've got
Dr.
him
Patrick's there, and I'm just using that name. But yeah, that's what that means. Now, this is Scotland.
This is Scotland, isn't it, right now? But this is potentially what could come to England. Now, in group 2, obviously, it said dermal fillers. Now, before we move to group 3, we know that dermal fillers is actually still restricted, don't we? So it's going to be dermal filler excluding chin, cheek, jaw.
That's what they're saying. So I always remember I always remember I did a podcast with Professor Signs, and he mentioned about tear trough, about if he had his way, it would be restricted. So there's a lot of focus on high risk treatments. So in the group 3 category, it says facial contouring like nose, chin, cheek sculpting, but cheeks is in the level 7 qualification. So I think it's more directed at tear trough because of blindness, rhinoplasty, potentially, and it's not written in the qualification. So,
Right.
you know,
So we've got to just see how that one pans out. So there may well be a bit of an area where chin, cheek, jaw may not fall into that, but certainly things like rhino, tear trough, that kind of
yeah,
thing will.
yeah, proposed. And a lot of practitioners do facial contouring as a living. So, by reading this, I've spoke to other peers, people that I know, and they said, "But this is my job. This is what I do. I'm, rhinoplasty. I do it day in, day out." And that's going to the red if proposed. So that's like complete ban.
Can't do it. So the only people that would be able to do that are what? Nurses, doctors, midwives? Is it literally medics with,
Medics only.
and is that medics with active pins or
With active pins. So if you haven't got an active pin, you're a non-medic.
you're a
So you're going to
non-medic?
fall. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got it. And also, so this isn't obviously just affecting non-medics. This is affecting medics as well, isn't it? Because they're going to have to get their clinics registered with HIS and potentially in the UK, if it passes over, which we'll get to, it could be CQC. So there's a lot of changes that are going to happen across the industry.
and they're going to need to be level 7 trained, and to give clinical supervision, they
Oh
need
yeah.
to be level 7 trained. And what
Oh
does it
yeah.
mean for training providers then? Who's delivering training?
Yeah, didn't even think of that. So then, wow. If you are a medic, God, there's a lot to this. If you are a medic right now and you have trained in, dermal filler, Botox, whatever, but your training wasn't registered like a recognized qualification, they're going to go need to retrain too to get them up to the same industry standards as what the non-medics are being made to go to.
Yeah. And
In
if you're training, so let's again play devil's advocate. If you're training Botox and fillers, you're going to need clinical supervision while you're training it as a training provider
if you're a non-medic.
if you're a non-medic. And some of the proposed treatments on group 3, fat dissolve, fat dissolve, platelet-rich plasma. We've seen it in the news. We've seen everyone jumping on the bandwagon. We knew it was coming because the media, again, are hyping up bloodborne diseases. It should be medical only. Hay fever injections, Kenalog, I agree with that. Deep chemical peels, thread lift cogs, we said that in the last one.
Yeah, you did.
Microsclerotherapy, thread vein removal, advanced lasers, laser resurfacing, cryotherapy, which
Wow.
was supposed to be written in at a lower level.
Yeah, you would think that would go lower, but I mean, there's
I had a cryotherapy yesterday at Face Gym,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah,
weird.
and you're still
Um,
alive to tell the tale.
yeah, cellulite subcision, any procedure done in the intimate area, which we totally agree with that
Yeah,
anyway. But
100%.
come on, fat dissolve, dermal fillers, platelet-rich plasma banned to non-medics.
Mm, it's going to make it very difficult, isn't it? It's going to make it difficult. Now, let's look at, so that's Scotland. Okay. So what you predicted this, Maxine, and you predicted it very well.
I have
What's,
my crystal ball.
yeah, I know, right? You're like a psychic. What's your prediction now for how Scotland's announcement is going to affect the UK and Ireland and Wales?
It's going ahead. It's going ahead. It's been going silently in the black background for quite a long time. So these proposed regulations, which will come in force very quickly, is a test pilot, will affect us, Northern Ireland, and Wales. So let's think about it logically. What can you do? Not a lot, apart from if you do have strength in numbers. I created a petition, and it was just to get a response that we don't have a fair voice in the aesthetic industry. I think we're a couple of hundred off to 10,000, which is a response.
Yeah.
Not going to do a lot. 100,000 would get it debated in Parliament.
Okay.
100,000. So between here, us, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland, customers, practitioners, 100,000 signatures, we could debate it out that by restricting women and men in business, you're going to affect our livelihoods. You're going to restrict treatments that we've carried out for over a decade. We're not all cowboys. We're not all in the back of cars. We're not doing things wrong. We're not using illegal toxins. That there's women in business who do it right, and they're the ones who are going to pay for others' mistakes. We need a fair voice.
Okay. And would you be the speaker for us?
Hell yes.
I mean, anyone that's going to do it. Okay.
Oh yes.
So the power is going to be in the numbers, and everybody needs to listen to this very, very carefully now, because we only have 10% of what we need on this petition if we want to help the industry to stay safe and to have a fair voice in it, right? Now,
there are other ways as well.
Okay, we're going to go over them all in this episode, because what I don't want people to do is be feeling powerless, because we're not powerless. And also we're going to speak about diversifying as well, and things that people can start to think about and do to kind of protect themselves if this does all happen and go ahead. Right, so let's break this down, because I'm an analytical person. We need 90,000. Wow. We need 90,000 signatures, right? Which sounds like a lot, but we are talking about England. Was it Northern Ireland?
Northern Ireland
and Wales.
Right. Yeah, and Scotland.
And Scotland too, so, because they can also, because they can jump in on this as well. This is
practitioners. No,
customers, family members, friends, anybody like that. So if we had, let's say, now I need to get my fucking calculator out.
I've got one.
Let's say we had 90,000 signatures that we need. And we've got, across those huge countries, we've got 10,000 practitioners. That is 9 signatures per practitioner. That is light work.
You know, it really, really helped Stacey's consent.
Yeah.
They doubled it because they've got a lot of data. They doubled it. So I really appreciate what they did, but it was quite disappointing, if I'm honest. Again, the whole thing, I was so disappointed because I thought I've trained over 10,000 people.
Yeah, you are.
You know, whether people like me in the industry or not, I don't. It's not rivalry. Yeah, but it's not. It's the same with other academies. This isn't rivalry now. You're going to get stopped from doing treatments. Yeah. So it's not about that. I don't see anyone else coming forward apart from a group called Fact Finders, who I find pretty hilarious, some of the things that they do. But if you really read into it, they know the stuff. They know how corrupt it is. They know that it's been led by organisations to restrict non-medics. And they've also started a petition, and it's about women in business, and they're trying to do something as well. The more things we do, go to the media, write to your local MP, whether they listen or not, don't know. Sign the petitions, get strength in numbers, and do as much as possible.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And this is really a time for the industry. And I'm not just saying non-medics, right? There are some incredible relationships that non-medics and medics have out there. And there are medics out there who are petitioning for the non-medics. They work with them. They love them. They're in the clinics. They're, or they've been trained by them. There's such there is a lot of collaboration in the industry.
But do you not think people are oblivious of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot that are not in that area of the industry. There's a lot that are still the competition, in the words of Sophia Bailey, collaboration over competition. And now more than ever, this is what needs to happen. We don't just need to collaborate with each other. We need the strength in numbers. We need your clients, your friends, your family to sign. This petition is probably going to be the strongest possible way of the voice of the industry being heard, because if we can get that to 100,000, you get to go. And if you go, Maxine, and nothing happens from it, we can't say we didn't try. And if there's one person who can go and do this job, it's you. And there are other things that people can do for sure. But I really just want to stress the importance of this petition, which is in the link in the show notes. DM me, if you want to DM me on Instagram, the word ban, I'm going to send you the link so you can sign the petition. The petition doesn't just want to be signed by you who's listening. It needs to be signed by your mum, your dad, your dog. I don't care who the fuck signs it, but we need to get power in numbers. 10,000 people, 9 signatures per person. There's people out there who are going to get us 100 signatures. There's people out there who are going to get us 3 or 4. What you cannot do is get none and then moan about it when your job and your livelihood is taken, because that's just you just can't. To sit back and do
You've got to
nothing.
make noise, you know, even by being invited and attending the Scotland government consultation. I was very vocal on it, saying, I don't think we're going to be listened to. I think this is not going to go our way. And I said that, and I knew it would go that way because there's an agenda behind all of this, and it's being led by certain individuals who are hell-bent. And I've said this for many years, and people always think I'm chatting bullshit, and I'm not, because I love this industry, and it's, you know, I created a lot of what you see today, and I was one of the first non-medics, along with a couple of other training providers, and over the years we have shaped the industry. AUK, myself, other academies, Jim McGrath, who's the first person to train non-medics, and we have, like, at the beginning we used to get a lot of stick, you know, like we used to get terrorized pretty much so, and you had to have thick skin because we was like, why are you doing treatments? You shouldn't be doing it. And we were very strong at the time as a group, that we didn't care. And the industry then over the years has got lax, insurance has changed it, pop-up academies have come, fast-track pathways have come, you know, people are doing it pissed up in parties, back of cars, everything. And it's like, because of that, this is where we are today. And if we fast forwarded 5 years without regulation, what's it going to look like then? We do need regulations, but we need fair inclusion and not exclusion. We're getting excluded from treatments we've performed for many years, and that doesn't sit right with me.
No, me neither. So we need to act. Let's talk about diversifying now, because there's going to be people listening to this and the heart rate's going to be like fucking sky high. And I totally get that, because the people who are passionate and care, like, it's their livelihoods. Now,
mine is, but through sheer pissed off.
You're angry about it now because you've done so much. Like, you've been such an advocate for this happening, and you feel like you've tried and tried and tried, and those who it's affecting haven't taken the action, and now you're like, well, look what's happening. Told you. But you're angry with it as well, which I totally get, Maxine. Like, I completely understand that. So now more than ever is the time where the industry as a collective needs to come together and fucking take action. It's as simple as that. It's time to take action or not. And I'm going to speak about diversifying and other things because I think it's important, but that does not mean to say don't do anything now, because it's still going to potentially affect you. So, well, I was doing a little bit of reading as well on this, and what I find as a grey area in some of the write-up was, it said on one write-up, and I'm not sure exactly if I've got this right or not, you can correct me or it'll come clear in the future, but it said on one write-up that clinical supervision on-site or nearby. That's a bit of a grey area, that, isn't it?
It is.
Because if I'm a non-medic and my best friend is a midwife, and she lives 20 minutes away from me or 15 minutes away from me, is that classed as nearby? Can I go perform that treatment because she's nearby? There's going to be some grey areas that I think people can look out for. I'm not saying break any rules. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just saying I don't see a solid, consistent, like, they need to be there watching you inject that person. See what I'm saying?
I've always said that clinical supervision, it's not in the room, but what I can say for Scotland is what's in black and white. Now, if a certain person gets his way, he would have it under CQC.
Yeah.
But I will quote, the supervising healthcare professional satisfies themselves that the procedure is appropriate for the client face to face.
That's fine.
That the practitioner who will undertake the procedure can safely undertake it, having regard to their training and qualification.
Right.
Qualification. I've always said it, qualification.
Yeah. So they're not going to say yes if you've just got a 1-day course that's accredited by somebody who's not actually recognised. No. Right.
I kept saying it 8 weeks ago, qualification. Prescribers now, so now we've got face-to-faces, prescribers will want to make sure that that person is adequately trained. That's not a fast-track 7-day course. They're not going to put pin at risk. So that they can safely undertake it. Then it says that when it's been undertaken, they're able to support complication management if something goes wrong, or make out any prescriptions that are required. Also, that the person undertaking that role is qualified in the particular treatments that they're doing, and it's very experienced in it. So they've got to be experienced to oversee it within the setting. So let's say in here, Sally's doing treatments and there's somebody who's a nurse prescriber somewhere in the building. It's not standing over someone, but it's if something goes wrong, they're on site to help. Yeah, but this brings me to statistics. let's look at all the stats that have been put forward by, say, Face and, other places, other organisations. Are they real? How many times? How dangerous is it? How many Botox do you do before you see ptosis or you see, any type of complication? It's quite rare, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Dermal fillers, yes, we do see complications in inexperienced people. But how often does that happen?
Hmm. So with Scotland, then it does specifically say on site.
Yeah.
Okay, I read a couple of bits and you know how it gets mixed up, doesn't it? And I seen something that said nearby, and I was like, well, that's interesting because where's nearby? It's neither
No,
fucking
even
here or there, is it?
there was a news article this morning, and even if you put it into AI or anything like that, it'll tell you clinical supervision is in the room.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
So for those who have got, maybe clinics and salons and they've got a nurse who or a medic who is on site, for those people, they can continue. They can because as long as that person who is doing it is happy and satisfied with their qualification, that they're qualified to a recognized standard and with their skill and all that kind of stuff, they're going to be okay. For those who don't, now, I think what will happen as well is there's going to be medics who are going to see this as an opportunity to make more money
they
for
are already.
themselves and help the non-medics. So they might say, well, I'll offer you me for a day or me for half a day. I'll be on your site whilst you do the treatments. You pay me this amount of money. I'll come with my laptop. I'm around if you need me. I'm going to sit and work from there or do whatever I'm doing. You pay me this. I'm there. You can carry on. I do think people are going to come out and offer these kind of services
They
because,
are,
of
but prices will
course,
increase.
they will. Of course, they
Is
will.
it is
Yeah.
it going to work for somebody who's doing, 4 Botox treatments a week?
No,
It's
no, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not.
no, it's not. And there's people who are making a living out of it now. They're traveling up and down the country doing face-to-face prescriptions. But then we've got to look at fast forward in a couple of years, prices will increase, treatment prices will increase. It'll go back to how it was years ago because it will happen where people will give up.
Yeah,
I'm being dead honest there. People will give up because they'll think, I've got to pay over £10,000 in training.
yeah,
I've got to pay for to have someone on site. And for us, we're years off it still. Scotland, as I say, is the task pilot. Please support them, you know, because whatever happens with them, it's very easy for Belfast to follow, for Wales to follow, for us to follow. That's what it's sort of like is it's a test pilot. So you shouldn't be sitting back. You've got to be active now and do something because that's really, really going to affect everyone. And I can't say it enough.
yeah. So what we're saying as well is like this change that's happened in Scotland isn't necessarily going to come in place in England in 2025 or even 2026. I think when do you think that something will happen over this side, like in England? Is it going to be in the next 12 months, 24 months? What's your rough prediction?
Well, I mean, I did think it would be quite a few years because of what's been going on in the country and, impending war and change of government and stuff like that. So it has been put on the back burner, but the Scottish government are not the proactive in it. So once does come out, I did think it'd take longer, but if I'm really honest, no. I think that by the time this is put in place, if nobody objects and you get these bans and you get stopped doing half the treatments that you do as a living, I think that potentially they could roll theirs out after and it'll like be given time to get to it. But the most important thing that we take away from here is that you're going to have to hold a qualification.
Yeah.
You're going to have clinical supervision, whether it be in the room or out the room. I'm still not quite sure here. Scotland, yes, it's there, it's in black and white. So you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to start looking at your business module, maybe exploring HIS, working with a healthcare professional.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you who are listening, right, for those of you who are doing 4 Botox treatments a week, for those of you who are like, I do a bit, but I don't do that much, and are actually really considering giving it up, my advice to you right now is to diversify your business. So start to explore other options right now. This isn't me saying everybody quit because that's not it. But for those
Oh,
people who don't have the medic contacts, who only do a few treatments a week, where it's not as going to be as effective on them, I would say to them, start exploring other options, microneedling, facials, skin treatments. They're so great nowadays. You can be charging 100 to 150 pounds for a facial treatment. If you get into that group one in that lower category, that's going to be pretty easy to manage. Laser hair removal. There's these other opportunities in your business where you can earn money. So please don't be like, that's it, I need to quit. The beauty industry is still a £1 billion industry. It's not just that. Now, I'm saying that because there's people that are thinking like this is the end of me, and it's really not. There's so many other opportunities to earn money in this industry, and yeah, for some of you might stop it, but for some of you it's 70-80% of your business. You've got to keep going forward. You've got to try. You've got to get these qualifications in place and have a voice in it.
Yeah. And, as well, adding to that about expanding your business, we've seen a rise in people wanting to do like machinery and skin treatments. We've got to look at, we spoke about a lot of negative things. Let's speak about the positive.
Yeah.
But these are proposals, and we have a time frame to act on it as a collective. As we've said, you've got one chance now to help Scotland. And if that fails, okay, then. So there is going to be a partial restriction of certain treatments. Well, if you're not going to do anything, then start looking into your business about adding other treatments. The thing for us is that we're nowhere near that yet. So
No.
you can be working on your business, developing it, making relationships with prescribers, maybe exploring CQC if your business is at that stage. And looking at other treatments that can bring extra revenue as well, and educating yourself, get onto the regulated qualifications. You are going to need them.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think that was a powerful conversation. Now let's talk about what it is that they can go and do. Okay, so step one, sign the petition. Not, I want everybody to take accountability. I always like to double people's targets. So I want everybody who's listening to this, who's going to go and sign that petition, to take accountability for 20 signatures. I want you to double down on what we actually need people to do. So anybody who's listening to this, don't just go and sign it for you. I want you to send it to another 20 people who will sign it, who do believe in this industry and who do want to save this industry, because like Maxine said, power is in the numbers. It really is in the numbers. If we've got 10,000 signatures, I'm sorry, good effort, but come on, industry, like we can do better than that. So step one is sign the petition. Maxine, step two, you spoke about fact finders, and I'm going to link everything in the show notes. Tell us about them and how people can go and utilize what they're doing to make a change.
Yeah, out of a really serious situation that we're in, I do find them hilarious in a way.
I've not seen them, so I'm going to have to go and have a look after.
Oh, they do make me laugh. But if you read about it, they know their stuff. They know how corrupt it is. But no, they also have got templates to write to your MP, to contact the local press. Never give up. Keep trying, even if you get ignored. Keep going back. Stop them. You know what I mean? Keep going. But also about fairness and equality in business. They've started. They need 3,000 signatures for this thing that they're doing. So I would say go over to Facebook and find them.
Yeah, I'll link it as well in the show notes.
Yes, and then the 10,000 signatures for a response, we're nearly there anyway, with the great help of Faces Consent.
Oh, so we do get a response at 10,000. Okay.
Yeah, we get a response, and it's quite lengthy about having a fair voice. We need a fair voice because we haven't had one. We've just been there for the numbers. The beauty industry habia, which at the beginning when we were invited, they didn't really know much about aesthetics. Aesthetics was brought into beauty, DTCT, in 2012, when I sort of like introduced it in. And then over the years, it's grown to where we are now. So I think at the beginning, we were invited for the numbers, but the agenda has always been there, which is to stop non-medics. The outcome is that you are not excluded from the industry. Potentially, certain treatments could be restricted, and it's going to be made more difficult.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so I suppose on the positive side of things is they've not said non-medics, you are not doing it. They've not banned us. They've banned us from certain treatments. And I say yours like I do. Aesthetics, I actually don't, but I'm very passionate about the industry.
You did at one point, didn't you?
I did at one point, yeah. It's how I started, and I've got thousands of members that are aesthetic practitioners and amazing ones and friends in the industry. And, I'm so passionate about it. But yeah.
But you give great advice on business. And obviously I follow you now after doing the podcast, and I listen to the advice you give. And as a businesswoman who's been through, the trials and tribulations of business, the ups and downs, I listen to your podcast, and a lot of it makes sense to me. So people can get a lot from you. And especially with these upcoming changes, I think it's now more important for mentorship than anything. How am I going to cope with the changes? How am I going to adapt my business? What if my income drops? What am I going to do?
Yeah. And there's coaches like me is going to be like, right, because I'm very much, I love strategy, but I'm very big on alignment, mindset, energy. And right now, more than ever, if you're a practitioner that's feeling that heaviness and that worry and that anxiety, jump into my world because I'm going to fix you up. Because
Well,
it's no good trying to scale from overwhelm and stress. It just doesn't work, does it? So I do
no.
think it's important. It's going to affect mental health across the industry. It already is. It already has since
Yeah,
yesterday. Yeah.
the worry of people thinking, what am I going to do? I've got a mortgage, I've
Yeah.
got bills to pay. If I get stopped, what's going to happen? One of the biggest things in the UK today is debt, is worry. It's bills, it's all that type of thing, and it's hard in business at the moment as it is. And the aesthetic industry has hugely been impacted by the impending regulations, and this is going to affect people even more. And it is all about strategy. It is all about now trying rather than quitting, but think, right, what am I going to do with business? Let's go. You can't be defeated.
Mhm.
We've just got to keep going forward.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And I think if somebody is struggling, reach out to a friend or a family member because you need to speak and you need to get it off your chest because it is scary. Like, they've been speaking about this for a long, long time and now it's coming into practice. But like we say, the positive is they're actually not saying non-medics are banned. Unfortunately for so many people who would love for that to be said, they're not actually saying that. They're saying, we're going to restrict you in certain areas and you're going to need to have X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
So that's a positive, but it's not really like it's not ideal because there's a lot of things around that we need to change and we still have a voice. We still have a voice until we don't have a voice. So if we don't use it, we lose it.
Yeah. A lot of businesses are going to close, I'll be
Yeah, they
honest with you. They will. A lot of businesses will close. Training academies, I think half of them will disappear because you are going to have to offer regulated qualifications. CPD is obviously a great learning tool and can be used to show that you've done CPD hours, but it's not a qualification. And when you speak to ladies, different people we speak to, they really believe that they've got a qualification,
I
and
know.
it's not a qualification, it's a certificate. But experience, I believe, speaks volumes over a certificate. If you've been doing something day in, day out, let's say, I've done 10,000 procedures, I'm an expert at what I do. I'm
100%.
not, I don't need someone looking over me and telling me, although I need the intervention of someone if something goes wrong. But in 10,000 procedures, I've probably had 5 adverse effects. That's
Mhm.
not a lot, really,
Mhm.
apart from bruising and things. So we are experts in our field. And this is why we need to get that across, that if we did debate it out, and I'm saying if, that, where's the true representation of who we are? The Sophia Baileys, um, Lindsay Owen, there's
Mhm.
lots of them who are Kiss Aesthetics, Flawless Aesthetics, Faces by AKJ. They're all the big names in the aesthetic industry who are experts. Why should they be restricted?
Yeah, I absolutely
Why?
agree.
You know what I mean? You've got to have recognition for experience because you're being classed as somebody who does do these cowboy treatments in the back of cars and things like that. That is not a true representation of a non-medic,
I agree.
a lay, a lay person. Or yeah, some of the names that that we get called. A lay person is an unskilled person.
That's
You know,
disgusting, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Yeah, what about a person who runs a multi-million-pound business?
yeah,
You didn't get that degree to teach you how to do that. That's life
exactly.
skills and experience.
Exactly. I want to just pick up on something as well because I want to talk about higher and the risk of a complication. If the person who is the oversight, does that mean they would need to be a prescribing oversight as well to be able to prescribe higher in the case of an emergency, or are they allowed to stock that? Because I heard that there was something going off there.
Well, it's the doctor that can hold stock, and I know that Dr. G is doing something with clinics. So for those that follow
Okay,
him,
amazing. Yeah,
uh,
it's going to be on the pod soon.
yeah, yeah. Oh, is he been on a pod?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So he's adapting as a business. He gives clinical supervision. He can stock KLAs, and I think that's going to be something that, if you're not, let's say, CQC registered or something like that, you're not going to be able to stock it on site. So that is again still a bit of a
Bit of a
grey area.
grey. CQC registration, Maxine, is CQC registration available for non-medics, or is that just is it likely that it will become CQC registration in England, or could it just be like a licensing thing with the council, or is it going to depend? Difficult, isn't it?
If a certain person gets his way, you'd love it, but I don't know how it's doable. I've been CQC before, many years ago. I opened up a CQC clinic, and it's difficult. You've got the registration costs, like his, quite costly. You've got to have a named supervisor. Obviously, you've got inspections. There's lots of things, policies and procedures and stuff. And, 9 out of 10 people just won't cut it. They
Really?
won't get it. No.
Really? Is it that in depth?
Yeah.
And this is going to be for all the industry, isn't it? Regardless of medical or non-medic, the medics are also going to have to adapt to their clinics to become CQC registered,
Yeah,
technically, and
because
have them
medics
qualifications.
medics can't carry out any of these treatments anyway unless they're in CQC. So if we've got a nurse that works for us,
Yeah.
they can't do sclerotherapy, they can't do COGS, they can't do hyperhidrosis, anything that's diagnosing treating an illness. They can't do anything. They've got more restrictions on them. And then we've still got to look at the fact that a non-prescribing healthcare practitioner still has to have a face-to-face. Now, what is their level of supervision as a
Mm,
non-prescribed? But they're a healthcare professional. I'm not don't know about that yet enough.
mm. Be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you, Maxine, for that. Is there anything else that you want to add into that, other than the importance of we need to take these steps and we need to take this action?
Yeah, don't panic yet. Let's go. Let's
Yeah,
get all
don't
these
panic. Let's get
signatures.
these numbers. Let's get
Yeah.
these signatures. Let's get Maxine. Number 10, she's got us.
But not even just, I'm not, it's not just me. I mean, anybody that wants to get involved. And probably people will be doing things like what I'm doing, but it's better as a collective, to do it together, just like all the organisations like the NMT, BCAM, and all the other abbreviations of organisations. They've got large numbers, and a lot of them contributed towards the government consultation about what treatment should go into which category. So in our categories, it's red, green, and amber.
Yeah.
That was predominantly led by medics. So when everybody sat there saying, this is ridiculous. Who's decided this? Well, it's not you because you didn't contribute. So
Mm,
it's, you can't sit here now and go like, why? Well, we've got to do something. You're doing it now. This is your last opportunity to do something. Help Scotland, get involved and help them, because what happens with them, and it's going to come in quickly, will eventually come to every single one of us.
yeah. Woo-wee. What a time to be alive.
We're 16 years on, Alicia.
I know. I know.
Every year, I always got told from the very beginning, you'll be getting stopped next year. You'll be getting stopped next year. And I
Yeah.
kept counting the years, and I kept thinking, still here. But I've always said it to students. I've always said the industry will be regulated at some point, and I've always said that we will end up having, like qualifications put in place. We will have to have a premises license. It's always been discussed
Yeah.
since 2013. It's been hammered into me that this
Mm.
is what's going to happen, and here we are today.
Wonder where skin boosters are going to go.
Well, they've been written by VTCT at 6, and they've not been mentioned because
Yeah.
they are low risk, but there's a lot of treatments still that haven't been
That haven't
mentioned.
been mentioned. Yeah.
But if you read the JCCP, they can at any time write in certain things. So it's called orphan treatments. So there's still room for scope to say, that treatment, let's put it into that one.
Right. And that's run by.
The JCCP is a charity, so it's not like some, like official body. It's a charitable organisation. But not many people have covered this yet because it was only released yesterday. We've seen Scotland News have put something out. The JCCP released it. I think it was late evening last night. So a lot of people, I think, don't even know about this. I think they're too busy working or
Yeah.
planning their next award ceremony. Sorry, you'll not be having them next year.
Yeah. No, this is as serious as it is, Maxine. And I appreciate, obviously, this conversation for the industry, and it's a bit of it's a very mixed thing that's going off. It's like in one way you could see it's positive, the next you could see it's negative. Overall, I think it's quite negative because of the intensity of the restrictions. I don't think it's impossible. I think people are going to make it work. I think there's going to be areas in which are going to be debatable, let's say, in terms of what they're going to do and what they're going to get away with. But ultimately speaking, I don't think that the people who are professional and care about this industry want to break any rules. They have been campaigning, like you have been campaigning, for regulations
It's not
for
shown.
years. No, it's
Not
not.
shown the
No,
good
it's
side.
not. It's no one other than the industry knows that. There are so many non-medic training companies and businesses and people like you, Maxine, who have been saying for years, we need regulation. People are doing Botox in the back of cars. People are doing Botox in fucking bedrooms with dogs in. People are doing it with no gloves on. Like, come on, we need regulation. But I think that the industry, when the media gets hold of us as a whole, is targeted when something bad happens. It's non-medic, non-medic. Now I know, like and I love all medics, non-medics. I'm not against any, but I know, like that there have been horrific cases of medics having adverse reactions and not knowing how to deal with it or not identifying a complication. Do they make the headlines? No, because it's not fucking clickbaity enough. So I think overall the industry, like from this side of things, we are battered, but this is why we need to do something.
We do. We do. So don't sit back, everybody. This is your last opportunity now. And I mean that it's your last opportunity to try and make enough noise, um, how unfair it is. And that's not having a rant on a social media, on these forums and things like. It's actually taking action, filling in forms, getting help on how to do it if you don't know how to do it, signing petitions, contacting media, contacting your local MP. Just do as much as possible, being proactive, because you can't leave it to other people, because that's what's been done in the past.
Okay, got it. I mean, for me, in my opinion, my thinking is this petition needs to get to the 100,000, and I believe we can do it.
Well, I
Absolutely.
hope so. I'm staying positive.
Yeah.
I've got red for danger on today because I'm so fired
I've got
up.
black for morning.
No, I'm fired up.
I can imagine. You need to go and do your workout and get it out of you.
I've done one this morning. I've
You'll be
not
doing
slept.
3 a day, have you not?
I've not slept. It's not like me. I sleep like a baby. But last night I was just like pissed off, upset a little bit as well, because you can see I've seen a statement. It's a monumentous move. In other words, it's a victory.
Yeah.
That it's not, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible because it affects those in business who do it right. And
Yeah.
that's not fair. There's got to be recognition, grandfather clause, or even people who've been in the aesthetic industry for however long. Why can't they not do the procedures? What do you want to force them to go and do a nursing degree, take up
Which will
valuable
happen, yeah.
resources? Yeah, but they're also putting caps on things about when you leave the NHS. So people are going to go and do nursing to then go get into aesthetics. That doesn't make sense.
Mm. Mm. It's just such a massive domino effect that this is going to have on the industry, on the NHS, on clients, on clinics, on trainers. Like it's huge, isn't it? But
There'll be more adverse effects because you've got a caliber of people whose mindset is not of a professional one. Let me say that. They will carry on doing these treatments regardless underground
oh
because
yeah,
they're used to the money, and customers, clients will not be able to afford to pay the prices that
yeah,
these
yeah.
treatments are going to be in the future.
Oh,
They
gotcha.
will go underground. They will go underground. They
Yep.
will do it themselves.
Of course.
Whether there's a law in place, and another one, lastly, an important thing that was highlighted is the consequences of when this is passed. Is that it's criminal offence with the prosecution when you do these treatments after, potentially without the qualification, and once this is put in place. That's how serious it is.
Wow. But people are going to go underground. There's no doubt about it. They're going to be able, you can buy
More risk to the
filler and
public.
Botox from anywhere, there's people out there that will supply people with Botox and filler from pharmacies, right? So they're still going to buy it. The clients that have been going to them for 10 years, do you think they care if they do it at the house? They're not going to care. They're going to be like, I still want to come to you. Don't worry. I know you'll look after me. And there will be people that look after them and they will do it off the grid. And that is going to happen. There's no doubt about it. But what
It's
worries
still,
us?
do you know what? It's still going on. I came across a client I talked to people in the waiting room, and she asked if somebody could look at her and have a second opinion, and she'd had BBL,
Yeah.
and she'd had it in someone's house, and it was somebody who was a medic but not in this country.
Yeah.
And she had swelling. It was red. It was itchy. And we advised her to go to A&E, but it's still going on. So even though it's a ban,
Yeah.
it's still, it's still going on. And she went, I didn't know that. I said, you do know that somebody lost their life? And she went, no, I didn't.
She didn't even
And
know.
again, no.
Yeah. It's
Very
insane.
sad.
We're going to wrap this up with the biggest message and the biggest take. Well, there's two really. Although it's a negative, it's not the end of the world. And secondly, we still have time. You still have a voice, and we need to take action. If you DM me the word ban on Instagram, I will send you a list of everything that you need to do that Maxine's recommended. If you go into the show notes below, there is a link to the petition directly, and a link so that you can go and find. I've totally forgot that company's name. Backfinders, that's the one. In terms of qualifications, what people need to be thinking about now is getting those recognized qualifications. Cosmetic Couture help do that. So go over to Cosmetic Couture online, although you probably have so many inquiries coming in right now.
Well, there's many academies out there. It's not just mine, just do your research, see how long they've been doing it, and look into your teaching quals as well. Because if you are a training academy, and obviously you're going to think, right, I've got to take action now. I've got to get the right qualifications. I've got to be trained in them myself, otherwise you can't teach them. And look at the right teaching quals as well.
Is there any other training academies who you recommend? I know you mentioned AUK earlier. Is that, is there anyone that you'd put your name to, or would you advise people to do their own research?
I recommend a lot of them. We're all in business. I'll be completely honest. People don't like others in business, but when we look at good training and people who are reputable, there are quite a few that are out there. AUK is one of them, and there's quite a lot. Just look in your local area, look how long they've been delivering the qualification, because they are lengthy qualifications and they are still fairly new. There's adjustments to the qualifications all the time, and they're more lengthier than what people think.
Yeah. Okay. Fab. All right, Maxine, thank you so much. I will end this recording now with one more message. Take fucking action.
Please do. Please take action. That's what we need to do. And get the numbers and do as much as possible and be proactive. This is your last chance.
Okay, we'll leave it there.